it's Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualise, My Asexual Life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual, and I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit that great big subscribe button right here, right now. Please hit that bell icon so you get notified of every time I go live and I will post a new video. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you find the content useful, helpful, insightful in any way, shape or form. In a moment, we're going to get into this particularly awesome live stream, which is all about the difference between an asexual life and a sexual life, told from my very own personal experience. Before I get into that, though, if you didn't know who I am Sandra Bellamy, I'm author of this awesome Asexual Perspective book, which is out on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Waterstones. And also, I'm the author of this fibromyalgia self-help handbook, which can help you to have more happiness, less pain in your life, and more energy, with or without fibro, in fact. So yeah, it's autobiographical, superhero style book. So really, really cool. Available from Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Right, here we go. So, what's the difference between an asexual life and a sexual life? So what's the difference between an asexual life and a sexual life? So before I found out I am asexual in 2014, I, up to 2011, was in a long-term heterosexual relationship for a total of 8.5 years. I was with him for 1.5. We broke up for 6, got back for 7, so 8.5 years in total. I also had another long-term relationship so before that, and so I had a series of relationships actually since a teenager, but my first relationship with a heterosexual guy, or boy I should say, was when I was 6 years old. And and so from the age of 6 was my first boyfriend, and then it kind of skipped to teenage years when I was about 14, I think. So yeah, that's really, really interesting. And so basically what happened is oh, my little lights come on now. You can probably see it shine in the background. So anyway, yes, so what happened is I'm gonna have to turn it off actually, sorry. You'll have to excuse me because it makes a noise and it grinds and it just is annoying, so I'm gonna have to turn it off. Because otherwise, oh, sorry about that. I completely forgot. It comes on a timer, and it's like I can't concentrate on it. So I was in heterosexual relationships for nearly half of my life or more, and I lose track of my birth certificate age because I really don't care about what it is. And anyway, so I had the first boyfriend when I was 6 years old, and then I think it was when I was about 14, I started having relationship after relationship after relationship. And so I was in a lot of heterosexual relationships. Now, I personally feel that having those relationships in the past, I led a very heterosexual style life, if you like. And I find that now my life is very different in the way I lead it. Now I know I'm asexual. Now I know there's others like me, and I very much lead an asexual life. And so you might be thinking, like, why is there any difference? Because life is life. We're all in this same world together. Whatever sexual orientation we are, we're all experiencing the same world and the same life. But obviously we experience the world and life differently depending on ourselves, our own perspectives, our own viewpoints. Let me just grab some water. So when I was in heterosexual relationships for years, when I was in relationships, the onus was very much on sexual acts, sexual touching, sexual behavior. It was a lot of the time it was geared around sex, or if you're not having sex, there was kind of a disconnection from the person. And it wasn't such a closeness, and so it's really weird. So if we go back to when I was 6, if you didn't know that particular story, when I was 6 years old, had a boy who was the same age as me, and yeah, he wanted to do kissing, which I loved, and I did passionately kiss at 6 years old. Then he wanted to do touching, and I didn't like that. I felt completely invaded. He asked me if I wanted to like look at his thing, and I'm like, I don't care. I didn't want to do that, right? I just like really didn't. But anyway, so if we go to like skip to my teenage years, then it was kind of like a lot of it was kissing and just touching, up until the age of 15 when a guy tried to take advantage of me, as in have sex against my will. Um, but he didn't ask me, I didn't say no, and he was trying to physically get me to do that. And so that was really difficult. But basically, like say when I was about 14, that type of age, it was all about kissing and having conversations and sharing interests and spending time together and being like really good friends. And so, in terms of like asexual life, asexual love, and asexual relationships, for me personally, I feel like the bit where I was a teenager, like where I was like 14 years old, some of those things in those relationships I actually really valued and still value to this day in an asexual relationship. So the things that I would say are very similar or the same in some ways are that type of age when, like you're a teenager and you're sharing hobbies and interests. You maybe talk about action figures, cuddly toys, movies, like having like certain types of clothes that are very trendy at that time. Um, Going around to each other's houses, eating food together, watching TV or movies together. I don't watch TV these days, so I'll come on to that in a minute. But it's kind of doing. I used to go to the one of my exes. I used to go to the beach a lot with, and we just kind of used to like hang out together. He used to like playing video games, arcade games, so he used to like pay for me to go on like racing car games and stuff, and I really liked that. I thought it was really sweet. And yeah, it was really nice, and I did like that bit. So kind of like in terms of an asexual relationship, I think an asexual relationship to me personally is kind of like that type of part of the relationship I had with heterosexual guys in the past, the teenager style parts of those relationships, like when I'm a teenager, like not like when I was 14, the guy when I was 14, I wasn't having sex with him. We were kissing, and he used to follow me around a lot. He used to be quite besotted with me because we used to be going to school together. And sometimes, to be honest, for me personally, I'm not, like I'm really, if I've got a boyfriend, usually I'm really into him. But I used to get, like he used to be besotted with me and like follow me around everywhere. And I guess at that point, I did want some space in my life from him because he was kind of like weird behaving like that in some ways. Some people might find it a bit smothering, but it's kind of like now I really appreciate a guy who spends lots of time with me and wants to see me. But I guess it was a bit odd behavior. It was a bit too like obsessive, smothering type behavior because he used to follow me all around like the school and stuff from what I remember. I had a bad experience as well where there was one guy who I was actually older with him by 2 or 3 years, and he was in the swimming pool with me, and he really liked, and then because he's heterosexual, I guess, like he was probably looking at me a bit sexually. And anyway, we split up. He wanted to get into a relationship with me. He's like 3 years younger than me, and he wanted to get into a relationship with me. We kept going on and going on about me getting into a relationship with him, and kept trying to win me my affection and attention. So eventually, when I gave in and agreed to do that, afterwards when we split, he was then really rude to me and making fun of me and stuff about my appearance. One thing particularly about my appearance. So I really didn't appreciate that and didn't like it. I thought it was really horrible considering he was the one who kept going on and on to me about being with me, even though he was younger. Um, so yeah, that was a bit odd, not particularly pleasant. And so yeah, that was some of my experiences. Now, one of the guys I had as a boyfriend, he was, this is when I kind of really felt weird about sex because he would like I didn't think about sex, but this particular boyfriend I had, he had a magazine of Porky's, which was basically to do with porn and stuff. I think it was to do with a movie called Porky's, but it was very sex focused, and I think the magazine was to do with porn and stuff. And so he kept that, he kept it under his bed or something. And like back then, I was kind of really disgusted by that. I thought it was really horrible. So obviously, clearly, I was asexual back then, but didn't realize it, because I think that's a major difference. Like sexuals, a lot of the time won't even think twice about stuff like that, you know. Whereas me, I'm kind of like really disgusted by it. But I thought that's just what guys do, and so I accepted it. Um, but so there was like stuff like that, and the one guy who used to be quite besotted with me and follow me around over the boyfriend I had, he was yeah, he was younger than me as well, actually. I'm remembering some of these boyfriends that were younger than me. It's really interesting, isn't it? And but there was one that was like 3 years younger than me. I think this guy was just a year or maybe two younger than me. I don't know. Or maybe he was three as well. I can't remember, but he was younger than me as well. But he actually was besotted with me although I felt a bit smothered, it was a nice, more nice besotment, because it was like he genuinely liked me, if you know what I mean. Um, not uh, not to hurt me or cause me grief, if you know what I mean. But anyway, his dad was like perverted though, and so that's what I didn't like, because when I was in actually like, going around to his house, his dad would say stuff to me like, "Oh, twirl around," and stuff like that. Show me what you're wearing or something, or I want to see you twirl around. And that was his dad, and that made me feel really uncomfortable. So his dad was kind of well known for doing that. I think his dad cheated on his mum quite a bit, and he turned out like that years later. Which he wasn't when I met him. That's kind of weird. He was with me in a relationship, he's very faithful, very honest, very faithful guy. And so it was like, yeah, um, that was quite disappointing, I guess, later on, because I found I this guy I always had a thing for later on, because we all were together in a relationship as teenagers, and then he was interested in a relationship again with me when I was technically with someone else, but my ex at the time was like gone away for 6 weeks and clearly probably interested in other women. I found out he had been swimming in swimming pools with other women and stuff, so he probably had an affair anyway. And yeah, so it was kind of like really weird. Um that his dad was like that, but he wasn't like that at the time, as far as I know. He's very faithful to me. But yeah, years later, I actually met him again in my city after I'd split up with my long-term ex in 2011. Well, or rather, he split up with me in November 2011, which I was glad about. I let him decide. And because we split up once, he stalked me really badly. It was horrible. So I wanted him to just leave me this time. And yeah, hmm. So yeah, anyway, I can't remember what I was saying. I kind of draw a blank when I think about sexual stuff and sexual guys really in my past. So yeah, so it was really difficult for me, I guess. Like, so yeah, I know what I was gonna say. Yeah, so I actually saw this guy again, years later, and when I saw him again, he'd literally got kids by different mothers, and he two-timed women, I think. I think he got involved with two sisters, or set of twins or something, and he was just like, and he told me on the phone, I said to him, Do you actually even care about me or want a relationship?" And he admitted no. So I was quite glad to not waste any more of my time on him. So that was good. I kind of got closure on that. Yeah. So, but it was a shame he turned out like that, because when he was with me, he was very faithful. And I never distrusted him like that. He was always really besotted with me, really into me. I didn't fear him being with any other women. But looking back, like in the past, like one of the boyfriends, he was into kissing and physical touching, body parts, not sex, but touching me, actually, not him. So that was quite interesting. I did actually like that at the time, which is quite interesting. So yeah, so from what I remember looking back, it was always the kissing that I really loved, which has stayed with me throughout my life, and some touching I liked with the guy touching me rather than me touching him. It's kind of weird. The bottom part rather than the top part. So yeah, I'd say, the kissing has always been there. And I always prefer kissing and being touched to sex itself. So I think although I've had a sexual life in the past, I've always seen looking back that I am and was always asexual. I remember when I was on the potty in front of my mum and realised that my mum can see me naked, and that was kind of like my first real consciously aware of my body experience. Like, oh my gosh, my mum can't see me naked. That was really weird. Um, because I must have been like less than 2 years old then. So that was quite strange. Um, but I don't know how old I was. My parents moved me to them when I was 1.5. So, and it was a bungalow that happened. We had a bungalow with some ducks that came to visit in this little stream that we had running through our garden. So that was really interesting. So yeah, so if I think about the past, like the sexual relationships I had, there was always an element of physicality, which was often the kissing, and then sometimes touching as well. If we move to like the later relationships, like when I was 15, 16, that was always like that's when the pressure to have sex really started by, you know, exes. Not at the same time. I was only in one relationship at a time. Um, the majority of the time. There has been like situations where I've ended up nearly overlapping, or maybe might have overlapped. Like been in a relationship and then another guy interested me. I've had to like end it with one while the other one's already started being interested in me, if you know what I mean. It's been very weird. I don't agree with two timings, so that's kind of like a situation that's very strange. It's like I can't be with you if I'm with someone else, so it's like I've got to go and end it with the other person. It's very weird. Yeah, that's only ever happened to me twice, once or twice in my life. Twice, I think. Yes, that's weird. But yeah, so living as in the sexual life, if you were, it's like, it's like there's certain things that I felt I had to put up with, like the porn, because it's what everyone does. And like, you know, with heterosexual guys in the past, it's like, seeing like pretty much almost naked women on TV prancing around in like videos, like where your ex gets basically turned on by it. And and it's very much geared towards like the last long term heterosexual relationship I was in, like that's very good towards sex. Like he would expect sex like at Christmas. When we went away, he would be expecting really to do that. Like he would buy me like stuff like lingerie, and he one point bought me a game which I never played, which was like a card to do with like sex stuff. You would pick a card and have to do truth or dare and stuff like that, but it was all based on sex and sexual stuff, which thank God we never actually opened that while I was with him. But it's like he gave me that as a present. So some of the presents I got, well, like that, it's like, it's geared towards sex. So this is with like heterosexual exes in the past, and kind of like your life's a lot more revolved around sex when you're with sexual people, with a sexual partner, because like, you've got to get, if you're practicing safe sex, which obviously I recommend you do, you've got to like make sure you've got condoms handy, and you've got to go to shops to get condoms together and things like that, or they might get them separately sometimes, but sometimes you have to choose together. If you've got like allergies and stuff like that to latex, you've got to get non-latex condoms and things like that. Obviously there's contraception like pill, and all that's got to be sorted out. So like you do have an element of sex and sex focus, and then depending on how sexual the sexual person is, how much they want sex, to kind of determines how your lifestyle is with them to a certain extent. Like a lot of the time I find that sexual guys expect sex whenever they see you if they don't live with you. Like if you're staying over theirs for a few nights, there was always like, expectation that we'll have sex. It's kind of a given unless a woman's on her period, basically. I mean, some women have sex on their period, but it's pretty messy doing that. Um, but you know what I mean? So it's kind of like very much geared around like sex and like touching and like, like special occasions going away. It's kind of always expected that sex will be part of that. And if the guy's got a high sex drive, it's kind of like the guy will instigate. Like my ex used to trying to instigate sex when I was doing the washing up. I preferred to stay doing the washing up. Like when you're sat down, like just on the bed with them, when you're laid together, when you're well, but especially when you're laid together, like, some people like to have sex in the morning, some people like to have sex at night, some people just like to do it whenever they see you, wherever. But it's kind of a big thing. And, like looking back at my life, then I was like having to put up with TV programs that had sex in them, partial nudity, and it's kind of like seeing all the adverts on TV like that, having a normal sort of life. And so for me, that's quite looking back, it's quite suffocating because I don't like that type of stuff a lot of the time. So if you compare that to my asexual life now, right? It's like I don't watch any TV at all in my own home. I even told the landlord this year that, well, last year now, that I don't watch TV, so I don't pay for the proportion of the license for the house anymore. So I don't have a T license technically anymore, which is fine because I don't use the TV. Apart from for putting it on the HDMI input for the Blu-ray player, so I don't never watch terrestrial TV. And then I'm very specific about what movies I watch. I try the majority of the time to get ones that got no sex in them whatsoever because I'm really not interested in that. And so I find my life's a lot better now because I don't have any guy, watching women prance around with barely any clothes on. One of my exes was really horrible because he's like, "Oh, well, you've been at wo" he was trying to be horrible as well. "While you've been at work, I've been, like, basically masturbating myself to a Britney Spears video," which was really horrible and disgusting, and I'm like, "Right," I really almost hated Britney Spears for a long, long time after that, it's just, like, kind of said to hurt me, really, and it's like, well, it's disgusting, because he knew I didn't like that type of thing. Whereas now, I don't have anything on TV. I don't read newspapers, like I don't buy newspapers. There's no page three stuff hanging around with naked women. I don't have anything sex. Like there's no sex games and stuff like that, and outfits or anything like that to have sex in. It's like, although, I have my normal outfits, but I don't have sex in them. But you know what I mean? It's kind of like, like the sex, the nudity, it's kind of like majority of it's out of my life now. And I don't watch anything I don't want to watch. And when I go to the cinema, I love it because, I can watch what I want when I want, and I don't have to sit through films that have got like sex or nudity in them. And some of the time my ex used to watch those type of films on his own because he knew I didn't like them. I said to him, you can go and watch that on your own. So I didn't stop him watching that stuff because I just knew that that's what guys liked, and personally didn't like it, but I didn't there's nothing I can do about it. Nowadays, I would prefer to have a partner that's like me and nudity repulsed and doesn't like looking at naked bodies and stuff, and tries to watch movies like I do with no sex or nudity in them. That would make me a lot happier. I'm not really comfortable sitting there with a boyfriend watching like naked or naked well, semi-naked, it depends. Like if the woman's like if they don't show the woman's like naked top, then that's passable, I guess. Just about. But when they start getting naked boobs and stuff, I just hate it. And if I'm with a partner like that, I just find it really disrespectful. So uncomfortable as well. So personally, for me, my life's a lot better now. I live in an asexual life because for me, it's more focused on fun, as you can see, with all the cuddly toys and the throw. It's more focused on young, fun kid stuff. Bright colors and sparkly things, and Like it's very much more focused on enjoying life and being sweet and innocent in those ways, not focused around sex and sexual touching and porn and nakedness and sex, all of that kind of makes me feel yuck. I didn't find it fulfilling. I loved the kissing though, but the nakedness and the touching stuff, but the kissing I did really love. But I felt some of the time I really didn't get enough of it because it's like you kiss and then you have sex. And it's like for me, I don't have kissing as a prequel to sex. I have kissing just because I love it in and of itself. So I feel like I was a bit kissing deprived sometimes in the past because it would be a focus on kissing and then having sex. But my last long term ex, there was some things I liked about their relationship, and that's when um we went round to theme parks, zoos, and aquariums. We would be kissing and cuddling the whole time. And that for me just personally added to the excitement of the experience. Like it's oh look, there's a cute frog there or something. Let's kiss. Like, oh no, I hate spiders. Ah, I'm so scared. Let me nuzzle into my guy's chest and like, oh, and then he's giving me a kiss. And so I did really like that. I liked the young, fun teenager side. He was quite young like me in that way. He looked pretty young as well. He was only 3.5 years younger than me. But I really did like that side of the relationship. Um, and I think sexually, even though I'm asexual, we are very compatible in some ways, like in terms of looks. Although he wasn't very attractive when I first met him. But there was like similarities in some photo shoot we had together, and I did look very beautiful. Um, and so yeah, it was kind of weird looking back on this stuff. So like I really am trying to say that in terms of sexual life and asexual life, I don't like all the sex, the porn, the fact your life's geared around sex when you're in sexual relationships, the fact it's a huge base for the relationship. I found as well that there wasn't a soul connection as much, particularly when in the relationship. I think when you're going to get into a relationship, there's more of a kind of like teenager style best friend soulmate aspect to it. And as soon as you get into the relationship, it's kind of like it's a lot more based around sex and kind of like a little bit more disconnected in terms of soul with each other, I found. Um, and sex is supposed to enhance things and being in a relationship is supposed to make things improve, but I didn't find that really. I found it made things worse really, and I was better off just being friends with the person a lot of the time in the past, looking back. But I can't just be friends with someone if I have love feelings for them strongly like that, it doesn't work out. So yeah, it's kind of really weird. But nowadays, like I haven't had a guy see me naked for since 2013. We're in 2022 now. Uh but any heterosexual guys I've dated or had very short relationships with, which I haven't intended to do that, they've been not able to see me naked because I cover my body up. I'm not interested in them seeing my naked body. I'm not comfortable with it, don't like it. I don't watch sport in my home as well. I don't obviously have the TV or watch or have any like half and semi-naked stuff on because I don't watch that type of thing. So I find now my life's a lot better because there's a lot more sex free, a lot more nudity free, a lot more free of bodies and naked bodies. And I also, like want really to find an asexual guy for a relationship, and I think an asexual relationship is based a lot more on soul and emotional connection than anything else. And even the friends I've made and the asexual meetups I love because there's no sexual energy there. It's like everyone is kind of like this is how I personally feel anyway, that everyone's kind of like doesn't have that element about them. They don't have the sexual urges, they don't have the sexual energy. It's kind of like at the meetups, it's all friendship and laughing and joking sometimes at like young fun kid stuff, and it's really just having fun with each other and really understanding each other. And I think with asexual life, it's so much better. I feel more like myself around asexuals. I feel I can feel safe. Thank you for the thumbs up. Lots of love. I can feel safe and really comfortable. And I feel that I can have people that relate to me a lot more. I feel with asexual life, I fit in a lot more in society. And I find that they're kind of like two completely different worlds in some way. Because to me, the asexual life is a lot more sweeter, a lot more innocent, a lot more childlike, which I love, a lot more teenager style. It's for me personally, this is how it feels for me. And it's just a lot more understanding, a lot more respect, a lot more kindness, a lot more caringness overall. And, it's like really good friendships, that's how I describe it. And a comfortability around each other, I didn't get that with sexuals. Um, Later on, I would say like when I was in my teens, like around 14, I had that type of thing a bit more when it was less sexual. But really, like even at 14, like especially with one of the exes, he was into a lot of touching and stuff. Obviously, when you go to meetups, you're not in a relationship, so it is different because I'm kind of comparing a relationship with like non-relationship stuff in some of this video, which obviously is completely different. But if I compare it like being around sexuals in general, sexuals, like it's like they've always got sex in mind. It's always like getting into a relationship, having a boyfriend, and kind of like sexual exploration. It's kind of always an underlying undertone of like relationships and sex. Whereas if even in adult life, if I met up with a heterosexual guy, it's kind of always a lot of the time there's sexual energy underlying. It's kind of uh like do they want a relationship with me? Do they not want a relationship with me? Obviously that's partly because I'm a hyper romantic as well. But it's kind of like really weird. There's always kind of an underlying thing there. Like if I go out with sexual, I find that sexuals can't really be friends, just friends either. A lot of the time, like it's like if I suggest to a guy to just be his friend, probably because he knows I fancy him as well, probably picks up on that. But because I don't really try and hang out with people I'm not attracted to. Well, I do sometimes because obviously at asexual meetups I'm not attracted to everyone. I'm talking about guys. I mean, women I'm not attracted to, and I have a lot more women come these days to my asexual meetups. I'm not attracted to any of them. Not like I like them as people. They're really nice people. They've got attractive personalities, but I'm not attracted to them in any other way, like asexually or anything like that, because obviously I'm hetero romantic into guys. Um, but yeah, I do like the fact they're really nice and kind, caring. But if I look and compare my life now to then, there was so much sexual energy back then. It was all. I was really in relationship after relationship as well. I spent most of my from 14 years upwards in relationships. So my life was very different back then because it was all geared towards having another person in my life and living a lot more normal life, like being in a relationship, living with the person, coming home, cooking, and washing up, cleaning, and just watching TV with the person, and working. So it's kind of like a very much a normal kind of existence in life. But I was so glad to leave that life because I was really bored with it. And I didn't really find it that fascinating or good a lot of the time. I found it really hard to trust the guys in relationships as well because obviously of the sexual aspect, there's always like the danger that they'll go off and have sex with someone else, which the majority of them did at some point. And it's kind of like you can't really trust them. Like if they're hanging around with women, a lot of the time they're up to no good. Well, the guys I was with were anyway. The majority, not all of them. Um, but yeah, so I find that in the past the sexual life was geared towards around sex, and it's very much like relationship, sex, sexual stuff, preparing for sex, doing sex, finishing it, watching TV, chatting. It's quite boring, and then if I compare it to my life now since I've been single and, after like 20 after November 2011, when like from 2012 onwards, basically like after like from kind of like later on in January 2012, it's kind of like my life's so much better because I live on my own, which I prefer. I don't like living with someone. I find when you live with someone, you just get consumed in normalness, and I don't like being normal. I find it really boring and offensive, and if I go to, like, sleep at 10 o'clock or something, I really get tired out. I'm much more active, like, this is 3 a.m. in the morning now, much more active late at night, and so for me personally, like, living that life of sex, sexual acts, sexual energy, like whenever you meet the boyfriend, it's always kind of like geared towards like what are we gonna do sexually today? Like when are we gonna do it? Like let's do it now type thing to like let's eat, watch TV, have sex type thing. And so yeah, I just find like I'm more free of that now. I don't like do 9 to 5 job currently. And and I prefer to sleep in the day and work at night a lot of the time, and I like to live a backwards life. My life is so much better now. I've got cuddly toys. I live a much more teenager lifestyle. I find it a lot more sweet and innocent. In that sense, I find that it's hard when you're doing dating or relationships because when you know you're asexual, and you're explaining to people that you hate sex, it's very difficult because sexuals want sex. And so there's something they want from you that you can't give them if you're a sex repulsed asexual like me. And so that's very difficult, because I crave kissing, I do like cuddling, do like holding hands, kissing I miss the most. And I do miss having that really close bestest romantic friend that you can kiss and cuddle with and be physically close to. I do miss that element and like hanging out together and talking about secrets and going around each other's houses. I kind of love all that and I miss that. Um so yeah, it's kind of like weird, but overall I much more prefer asexual life. I much more prefer asexual love. I think it's much more soul and emotional connected. Asexual love, I feel you can live and love on a much more deeper emotional root level. And, I'm glad to be free of, you know, like all that sex stuff and that. Like sometimes with asexual guys, some of them start asking me like really personal questions about like touching and stuff. And it gets to a point where sometimes it just makes me really uncomfortable because it's like, well, this is getting really too sexual again now. And it's reminding me of the past and it's just too much. But even myself, I've got to be careful because if I get too aroused and I kind of feel not so great because I feel it's a bit too sexual in behavior, free from me. But obviously, if you get aroused, you get aroused. It's a natural thing for some asexuals, but you can't help it. But it kind of freaks me out a bit sometimes. But yeah, I prefer like now my life. It's much more sweeter, innocent, cuddling, cuddling my cuddling toys, cute and cuddly, colourful, and it's just nicer. Meeting people at asexual meetups is better as well because you can relate to them and everyone just wants to be happy and have fun and enjoy themselves in a non-sexual way, which I really love. And yeah, friendships are a lot more deeper the majority of the time. I still got one heterosexual female friend who I adore as a friend only, and that's really good. But when I'm around asexuals and have asexual friends, I find they understand me a lot better. And so it's a lot more comfortable to be around them physically, like especially in my own home, my best friends, it's like I totally trust them. They're not gonna do anything bad to me. There's no sexual energy or tension. It's like really two friends hanging out. It really is that. And so it's beautiful. Um, so yeah, I just find that it's better overall. But because I've got some sexual behavior despite not experiencing any sexual attraction, it can mean I'm more suited to sexuals and relationships from that one point of view, but overall I'm not, because I'm not sexual enough for them. My behaviour is not sexual enough. Um, and so yeah, I prefer asexual life overall. I think it's a lot more sweeter, a lot more innocent, kind, caring, fun. Um, and I hope one day I do meet the right asexual guy for me, because I think we'd have so much fun and happiness together if I did. You know, I still believe I've got an asexual Indian soulmate somewhere in the world. I don't know where he is. It's like I keep putting the flares out, but he's not come home yet. In an asexual way. So yeah, but I look forward to meeting him in the future. Yeah, so I do prefer asexual life. I prefer like having no nudity, no porn or anything like that in my life. I prefer not watching soaps. I prefer, like, and there's a lot of asexuals that feel they can't get away from sexually explicit material, but you can if you just like don't bother watching TVs and movies with that in, and like, and just stop it. If you're to the point where, oh well, I can't because I love the storyline, then the storyline is obviously more important to you than the nudity or sex. You know, aspects. For me personally, I'm more nudity repulsed than sex repulsed. But I am about having an interest in watching a program. You know, so that's more important. But anyway, yeah, asexual life's the best. I think I prefer it. I think it's less stressful. You know, you're not going to get a sexually transmitted disease or infection if you're not having sex, and and you're not doing stuff that would otherwise make you have either of those as well. It's like when you build a potential relationship up, it's a lot more based on friendship and mutual support and interest and kindness and caringness and worrying and caring about the other person. And when you're around other asexuals, it feels great because you've got someone who's got a similar mindset, who understands where you're coming from and understands that you don't need to have sex, have love, or having a relationship. And that's so important, because love without sex really does exist. And that's what I want, always. Friendship love's the best, and romantic asexual love for me would be amazing if I found the right guy for me, which I hope I do one day. And yeah, I'm gonna love you and leave you for now. Let me know what you think, if you've lived a heterosexual life before and now you know you're asexual. You're not living that life anymore. I remember as well, as a teenager, it was all kind of focused on relationships a lot more as well, and who's getting off with who, and who's done sexual stuff and touching stuff, which I'm glad I don't have anything to do with all that. So yeah, sex free and happy since October 2011 was the last time I had sex. So 2022 now. It's like, yeah, it's 10 and a half years, it'll be 11 years in October since I've last had sex. So yeah, looking forward to my anniversary on that. Anyway, I love you, Nico, for now. Please give me your comments below if you've been in heterosexual relationships in the past, but you are not interested in that anymore and you're living more of an asexual life. Let me know what you feel is the difference between being in relationships with the heterosexuals, being around heterosexuals, or other sexuals in general, and being like with your asexual friends, living a more of an asexual life, you know what I mean? So life that's absence of sexual attraction and all that goes with that. Um, and yeah, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that great big bell icon so you get notified every time I go live. Right now I'll post a new video. Lots of love to you. See you soon. Bye.